Hello, and welcome to another edition of BNEWS In Depth. I'm your host, BNEWS Director Rich Hosford. This month we are doing a preview of two of the big decisions that will be before town meeting during the May session that starts on Monday the 14th. The first is a proposed project to combine the DPW highway and water facilities with recreation maintenance into two new facilities, one on the Clark and Reed site and another at the current highway department site. This, if approved, will be done over two phases, and we get into the details in the interview. For the second part is a proposal to connect Burlington's water supply with the regional MWRA to ensure the town's water capacity in the future. This comes with a cost, but would also save the town in future maintenance and facility costs while providing a more reliable source of water. We'll start with the first issue with my discussion with Town Administrator John Petrin, DPW Director John Sanchez, and Parks and Recreation Director Brendan Egan. Let's take a look. All right, now I am here for the first part of today's show. I am joined by John Sanchez, DPW Director, Parks and Rec Director Brendan Egan, and Town Administrator John Petrin to talk about the proposed plan for the maintenance, rec maintenance and highway new sites. So, welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting us.
Thanks for having us.
So, can we just start with kind of like a summary of what the project is? So the big picture, maybe start with you, John.
Oh, I thought I was sitting in yen to not talk today. So this is a DPW facility with rec maintenance. So what we're looking to do, we are in 4 separate locations at this point. So rec maintenance is in the Windermere section of town. We have the highway facility on Great Meadow behind Coles in that area. Water and sewer is across the street from that. And we also utilize Clark and Reed site for storage, of property. All of these facilities are dilapidated and in need of major repair, and they are just not meeting today's needs. They were built basically in the 60s, for the most part, and so we don't have enough space to put all our equipment in, and the space that our people are having utilized for offices, restrooms, facilities, there's no showers, available, and so on. And these are departments, that need some upgrade in that area. So what we're looking to do is a 2-phase project. $32 million. First phase is $16.5 million that we're seeking at this upcoming town meeting, May 14th, 2018. And that phase will be to design the entire project, to build on the Clark and Reed site, a location for rec maintenance and for what we call central maintenance, which is our vehicle repair division out of the highway barn, and also to have a wash station in that area, as well as to redo our gas station, in essence, behind the Town Hall Annex. So all the gas for town vehicles are provided in the tanks right behind the Town Hall Annex. People have probably, when you go to Town Hall, you see the pumps, right in the back. And those tanks are, 25 years old, John, give or take?
Close to 30 now.
30 years old, and they are in need of, upgrade, to move forward so that we don't have any environmental issues. So we don't have any today, but we need to take care of that now.
Right. You don't have them until you do.
You don't have them until you do, and so it's time we take care of that issue. So phase 1 is $16.5 million. Phase 2 would be rebuilding the highway barn to house highway and water and sewer, which is across the street. And you were kind enough to tape a show so people can see the town administrator's corner and take a full tour of these facilities. I think you'll be amazed. You totally enjoyed the bathroom, the almost outdoor bathroom at
the water facility.
At the water facility.
Kind of rough living there.
Exactly. So so people will see. And so second phase is $15.5 million to rebuild the highway facility at the current highway barn area.
Excellent. Now, just a little more in depth on some of the current conditions. Brendan, we'll talk about the rec maintenance. First of all, just kind of in general, what's the status of the building? I remember I showed up there yesterday, and there was one building I think was just completely closed. I walked around it looking for an entrance.
Sure. There's 4 buildings on the site. One is a storage area for recreation maintenance. It also contains the wood shop. and it stores a lot of our smaller equipment off-season, our mowing equipment, trimmers, small seeders and ball field machines, things like that. And then on the other end of the building that houses our recreation, some storage for recreation programs. The second building on the site is the home of the Community Theater Group of Burlington, or formerly the Players. So they have a building there where they do their performances. And then we have a third building that is storage, and it's really equipment that we do not use anymore. That's maybe some old playground equipment that we might use for parts if we need a certain bolt or something like that. And then there is the maintenance garage. Maintenance garage is a steel building, it's just under 5,000 square feet. It is showing considerable wear, rusting out. It's a steel building with steel panels going around it. The roof is open, or it's enclosed, but it is porous at best. We have lots of birds coming into the building. We have raccoons, we have mice. So we get a lot of nature into the building. And that houses our vehicles and some of our large mowers, our tractors. It also has the mechanics area in it, has the office and a bathroom, a single bathroom, and has some storage for small equipment, hand tools, things like that. So that's the main building we work out of.
And you mentioned that, somewhat porous, and it's heated and air conditioned for people and equipment and everything. So we're kind of,
it's air conditioned all year,
Yeah.
whether we want it or not. And it is not an efficient building, especially in today's standards when it comes to heating and cooling. We only cool the office area, obviously the break room. We don't heat or cool the garages, but the heat costs on it, have increased steadily over the last 5 to 10 years.
And what do you hear from the people, from your guys and women who work there, just about the conditions?
Yeah, the staff has been really good. They know what type of building they're working in. They've been very patient. I think this is the farthest we've gotten in a conversation on a new building in a long time. So we're happy to have the support of the town administrator and DPW director to move into a combined building. It's going to increase the possibility of moving into a combined building. It's going to increase the amount of space we have, being able to store equipment inside that we've had to make a decision. Does this stay inside and we leave, on what stays inside and what goes outside? We'll be able to fit almost everything inside, which would be great. It'll give updated locker facilities, bathroom facilities. It'll be handicap accessible. Everything that today's building has to offer, or should offer, this new site will have, and it'll give plenty of room for the staff to work too. Both wood shop and mechanics areas will be, properly ventilated. Will be set up appropriately with the proper tools and workbenches. It just provides a better flowing space all in one building and not having to go between 2 or 3 buildings.
And also, we'll talk about the location. So right now I don't know if people really know, you go up Harriet Ave
Yep.
to Edgemere, and you're right there. It's right in the middle of a residential neighborhood, and it's kind of off the center of town. You're like right on the Woburn line pretty much. Talk about how issues with that location and how the new one might work out better.
I think, the staff has grown to like that location over the years. It is quiet. The neighbors, we have a good relationship with the neighbors right now. They're considerate. The staff is considerate of the neighbors, and they're
That's
not.
good.
They try to keep the noise level down, especially in the morning. They come in at 7 o'clock. So unless we have to take equipment and work on it outside or start it outside before taking it somewhere, we try to keep the noise down. But moving to the location, the Clark and Reed location, will provide us with a more commercial area, not so residential. We won't have some of those same concerns, getting equipment out. It gives us access quicker to a different side of town than we've had before. It still is, not centrally located, but, we've been driving things
Sure.
across town for a while. So, and having close proximity to the DPW barn is awesome because we do a lot of sharing of equipment. So that will help.
Excellent. And now it's kind of the same thing. We'll start with the water division. What is it? It's an old pump house?
Yes, that's probably the oldest well that we had in town. We call it the main water, and they modified that into an office. They've been there for years. Same as the highway division. It seems like over the last 10 years, anyways, since it seems like imminent that we're going to be doing something with a DPW rec department, so we don't renovate, and those buildings are to the point that they really can't be renovated. So fortunately for the employees, we do work out of a well house right now. I mentioned to you on the other show yesterday that prior to that, they were actually working out of a sewer pump station. So this is
That must have been fun.
This is a big improvement now, going from a pump station to a water facility. But the conditions are not suitable for the amount of work that we need to do and the type of work that we do.
Yeah.
It's just not. I mean, we don't have places for shops and storage and similar issues that the rec department has. We happen to be a larger department, so we have more vehicles and equipment, but we suffer from the same deficiencies on the buildings.
And then also on the highway, like for one, just talk about the base space. When we were there yesterday, and maybe we can even throw some images up while we're talking. I mean, there was like one truck pretty much crossing mirrors with the one parked next to it just to get them inside.
And they do wonders. I mean, we have great employees. They want to maintain the equipment. They want to keep it indoors and protected. And I'm glad they're good drivers too, because they have to get so close with the loaders and the backhoe sweeper, everything, to be able to fit as many pieces as we can indoors. And obviously, that's not conducive for when you need to leave in a hurry.
Right.
Am I right? So, but again, we try to keep the equipment indoors as much as we can.
But we don't have everything indoors, which
Right.
is part of our problem is, you'll see from the shots, that you took yesterday, we still got pieces sitting outside.
Right. Which obviously cuts on their lifeline or sustainability. And what about the conditions for the workers? Because it's not only people there, 7 to 4 or whatever. During snowstorms, it can be a 24-hour situation.
Yeah, it makes it very difficult. I mean, there's been storms that they haven't gone home for 3 days. And that's a place where they will take a break in between plowing or sanding. And again, from the pictures that you probably see or put in the background, I mean, the places where they take rest is really not a place that you want to have for anybody anyways. And
A lot of curbside pickup couches.
that's what it looks like. Now, all along, everybody has been in the same mode that the next priority will be to build a DPW rec facility, and this is why we keep on living in those conditions, waiting for that moment. It hasn't been an easy way to get where we are today. There's been a lot of work over the last 10 years, and certainly over the last 5 since John has been here, looking at different alternatives on how we can do this in a good, efficient way by combining, again, the storage and facilities from the rec with us, so we can save on some of the facilities that we need to do otherwise if we did it separately. And we finally got to the solution of the 2 facilities, which are really near each other. It's not like we're in 2 different parts of town.
Right.
So we're looking forward to good facilities for the employees with a decent break room and maybe an office that you don't have to share with 3 or 4 other people, etc. And it'll make it better for the workers in the work that we do.
And now I know you're still going to fine detail some of the plans, right? But how do you think this new, these new facilities will kind of help the town going forward, as far as, and how long into the future do you think they'll be able to support the town's work?
Well, like every building that we construct, is always a 50-year design.
Okay.
And now, if you look at the buildings that were built in the 60s, I think we are past that already in the facilities that we had. But the way we see it is they will be big enough to store the equipment that we have currently and some of the equipment that we intend to probably have in the future. Storing equipment, it makes it last longer.
Sure.
I mean, like currently on our end, as an example, the snow blowers that we use for the sidewalks, they had about $140,000 each. So, and unfortunately, there's no place to keep them indoors. So there you go with a brand new $140,000 piece that you have to put outside year round. I mean, you have Sanders in the $30,000 range, and we take them off and put them outside to store them, and because we have no other place. Like John stated, I mean, we try to keep as much equipment as we can indoors, but by having a facility where we can do that, it will certainly make the equipment last longer and be in better condition when we go to use it again. If you put a sander outside, by the time you're going to use it again, you're going to have to go through it again because you just sat there in the weather for a while. And same with just about every piece of equipment.
Excellent. So, better conditions for employees, better, housing for our equipment, and just up to date,
Right.
workable facilities.
We got to remember
for everybody.
that these facilities were built prior to Burlington being Burlington today.
Right.
So we had no mall, we had no commercial base. We were a small residential community back in the '60s, and the '70s. When the mall opened up, mall's 50 years old now. And that's when Burlington took off. These were built prior to that. So these facilities, were fine back then. But we're a much different town from where we are. Our departments are much different departments from them. And we're growing, so we're growing as a community as we move forward. We need to have that availability to do so.
Very good. And last thing, just talk about, how they will be paid for, and,
Sure.
how it fits into sort of the town's sort of well-planned-out finances.
So thank you for the well-planned-out finances.
I was commenting Paul Sagarino, not you.
Yeah, see? Well, I'm thanking you for Paul. So, our financial team, with Paul Sagarino, town accountant, Brian Curtin as our treasure collector, we meet on a regular basis to review our financial picture. And then we present that to Selectmen, Ways and Means at the town meeting every year. Matter of fact, got a meeting tonight with Capital Plan Committee to look at the long-term, financial picture with them tonight. So we do a lot of this planning, and so this is as I said, a $31 million project. We will bond this project, so we will take out basically a mortgage, on this project, and we'll pay for that over a 20 to 30 year period of time, as we move forward. And so what we've done is we have a financial model that looks to our future, as to our debt schedule. And we try to get our debt schedule so that when things are coming off, we're adding things back to the schedule, so that, because we have so many needs. When you talk about this town, people will talk about schools needing potentially an elementary school. The high school potentially needs to be upgraded. We're looking for state funds for that. The police station, people, say we need a new police station. We're now building a new fire station as station too. Right. These are all things we have to keep in mind as we move forward. So we have a full plan that addresses these in a financial picture, going forward. So we're capable of funding the debt on these things moving forward without having to ask for new taxes as part of our financial plan.
Very good. All right, so this will be on this May town meeting, and so.
Yes, beginning May 14th,
Right.
Monday night, May 14th, and this will be one of the items.
Great. Very good. I appreciate you guys coming in. I'm going to have two of you stick around for the next part about water, but Brendan, you're free to go. But thank you guys for coming and talking about this.
Thanks for having us.
Great, thank you.
So there we have part one. Now we'll go to my talk with John Petrin and John Sanchez about the proposed changes to Burlington's water supply. Let's take a look. All right, now we're here for part two of this month's program, where we're going to talk about proposed changes to Burlington's water supply. This is kind of a follow-up to a discussion that we had, I think, on one of our first or second BNEWS In Depth, where we went over all of Burlington's sort of water issues. So since then, they've done some thinking and come up with a couple of proposed plans, and we're going to get into those. But first off, I'll reintroduce them. We have DPW Director John Sanchez and Town Administrator John Petrin. So, Johns, since the last time we talked, kind of what have you come up with as far as proposed plans for Burlington's water?
Well, maybe I'll give the big picture because I have no clue on the detail. He's good on that side. So the big picture is that the Board of Selectmen have met and they voted 5-0 to support joining the MWRA, so the Massachusetts Water Resources Authority, to get water to supplement the water that we have. So it's a long-term program that we're looking at, and so joining MWRA is the first step. That gives us the capability of bringing outside water into the town. As I think hopefully everybody knows at this point, our water in this town, we're using the maximum capacity of the local water that we can develop. So we have 2 plants in town, the Vine Brook, which draws from water wells in that area, and we have Mill Pond, which draws water from the reservoir and the Shawshene River coming in. And we are, during the summer, we're at maximum capacity. The reason for this is twofold. One is one of our lines at Vine Brook we're not able to use any longer due to contamination of the 1,4-dioxane. And so that's been shut down for 5 years now. Right. And the second is the proliferation of irrigation systems. So irrigation systems use more than twice the doubles our amount of water usage in the summer than our winter usage. So, you know, we have the numbers, we have the facts. So what we've been doing is working up a program to develop, the capacity to have water for the future of this town and to have some redundancy. That's the other big issue of this. What we don't have right now is redundancy in water. So if we have a problem in our water, we have to shut down one of our treatment plants. Right. We've got a major problem. You know, we're not going to be able to produce the water that we need. So this gives us that redundancy, and it gives us a plan for the future. I know there's a lot of questions about MWRA, but we've researched this. And so one of the things we've been doing the last few months is working with the town meeting committee on water. A special committee was appointed by town meeting and the moderator last year, and we've been working with that crew, and they have voted unanimously as well to support this plan.
So I know you mentioned it. Let's back up just a little bit, just in case. Won't go too details because we already have. But so 2 of the wells are shut down, right? Because
we actually have 3.
3, okay. Because of 1,4-dioxane, which is a contamination that is from where?
Yeah, well, it's normally comes from chlorinated solvents that industry might have used in the area. I mean, that aquifer unfortunately has 44 known sites that contaminated the groundwater. And of those, 9 are known to have 1,4-dioxane. And unfortunately for us, one of the major sites is actually contributing to where those 3 wells are located in Vine Brook. Now, until recently, we couldn't detect it. The methods we had to actually test for it will show that we had nothing in the groundwater. In 2011, 2012, there were new methods developed to actually test for it, and that's when we started finding this in our drinking water. As a result of that, as John said, our numbers coming out of the water treatment plant, the drinking water, were high enough to make us say, okay, we don't want to take a chance of going over what the permissible limits are, and we shut down those 3 wells. So out of 7 wells that the Vine Brook treatment plant has, 3 have been offline since 2013.
And now, it's my understanding there's also the risk that either continued contamination or just changes in the standards of what's allowable could threaten the use of some of the other wells?
Well, what happens is the EPA has this program that they look for new contaminants. So every, I think it's 4 or 5 years, they go out with a whole list of new contaminants that we need to test for. And based on those and the risks associated with those, then they will come up with new guidelines or new restrictions on how you have to treat the water for. Well, we already know we have 44 sites that contaminated the groundwater around us. So going into the future, this one of the issues that we face, and one of the reasons why it took so long to actually get to where we are, looking at alternatives, is whether or not the Vine Brook should remain a viable solution to the town well into the future. We know that right now the water coming out of there meets all the guidelines, and we certified that through DEP, who gets all our tests that we do, some of them daily, weekly, hourly. I mean, we have all kinds of different tests that we have to do. But for the plan is to eventually discontinue the use of that water treatment facility.
Right. I think that's one of the big takeaways. So you're going to stop using Vine Brook?
Eventually. Yes, eventually. So To go into the phasing program, which is what John talked earlier, we're dividing this into two phases. Phase one is what we're going for town meeting right now, is to join the MWRA, construct a new pipe on Adams Street so we can access water through the town of Lexington. That will be through their water system to us, and that will restore the about 1 million gallons of water per day that we lost to this problem with the 1,4-dioxane.
Okay.
That's only a temporary solution. That's only a short-term solution. At the same time, and we'll be coming back to town meeting, assuming that this is a positive vote in the future, to actually go with phase two, which is to build our own line, the line that the town of Burlington will own, to connect us directly to the mains from the MWRA. And as the plan continues to age, that is the Vine Brook, there will be a point where the town will make a decision, okay, we no longer will upgrade this plant, and it's time that we start buying more water from the MWRA. I use the old car analogy because it just works out. As long as it's still running and it's not costing a lot to run, we should probably continue to run it, but not too long into the future, we probably will need to discontinue the use of it.
So it seemed like there was the option of joining the MWRA to make sure that we have enough water. Was there also a consideration of trying to do treatments of the wells, and what kind of cost alternatives were looked at, I guess, in that regard?
Yes, there is, for this particular chemical, there is treatment. Right now is not something that has been out there for many years, but it's something that has been used successfully. And the question again comes to the expense of this treatment for this. And by the way, the numbers that we're looking at was just to take care of what we call Train B, the 3 wells that we have an issue with right now. And trying to work the expense and then the future problems that we may encounter. I mean, the plant is aging. Right now we have a filter that is offline out of 8 because age is leaking, it's getting older and we have to repair it. So we know that that's going to keep on happening. So after all the analysis, the recommendation is from our engineer as well as our committee as well as the staff is to actually go with a solution that will take us away from that, but not from the mill pond. I think that, and I agree with the proposal that we keep the mill pond as pretty much our main source of water, and then use the MWRA as supplemental to our drinking water.
So the town has the option, or the way that the system works is that you kind of use as needed for the MWRA supply?
That's the plan moving forward. So it'll be our secondary source, to supplement in the beginning, Vine Brook and Mill Pond, but in the end, Mill Pond. So just to get back to the point of the committee, the town meeting, water committee, and the selectmen did look at the other options, and we could have built a cleaning solution to take care of the 1,4-dioxane just for that train, which would have been millions of dollars to do so. So the question is, how effective would it have been? So we build this, how long can that keep up? And then the other question was, well, what about the next pollutant that comes down the road?
Right.
So if we got to spend $5 million on this pollutant, what about, I always say, 1,5-dioxane? So what happens when 1,5-dioxane comes in, and you now got to build a cleaner for that, because every pollutant has a different cleaning system to it. So you can't just put in one cleaning system to take care of all pollutants. So that was a part of the discussion. That's why going to MWRA into a larger system that has the capacity to clean water, at a larger capacity. So, the economy of scale,
Right.
So dealing with that at that level. That's why we chose to go with that level.
And like we talked about in the last segment, I'm sure, I don't know, when was Vine Brook built? The water
It
treatment?
was put in operation in 98, 99.
Okay, so it's not as old, but eventually,
It's 20 years old.
20 years old.
Yeah,
So,
eventually
yeah.
things will wear down just like
In
the other
dog years, it's
buildings.
old.
And one of the other reasons, the need for the connection, you spoke about at your presentation to the Board of Selectmen, is that right now, if something were to happen to our water supply, we'd have to go into like an emergency kind of situation. And something did almost happen, or did happen.
Yeah, actually, that's a very interesting point you bring up, because I hear, as I talk to people, I hear that, well, if you have a problem, just open the connection. Well, it doesn't happen that way. It's not like we just send a crew and says, just go and open the connection and we get water and now we're all set. There's a couple of issues that go with it. One is that the water lines only have a certain amount of capacity that water is going to get through. It's not like it's infinity. So in our case, it happened to be about 700,000 gallons a day. But when something does happen, and something did happen, and it has happened unfortunately several times, we have plane crashes that actually crashed directly behind our treatment plant. We have lightning that took wells offline, wells 10 and 11 offline. We had Mill Pond treatment plant. We lost capacity, the electricity, and even though the generator was running, it wouldn't transfer power to our facility. This is during a Christmas day a couple of years ago. And every time one of these things happens, it's a crisis, because we know that the other plant does not have the capacity to handle the system. Most recently, in January, we lost the Weinberg treatment plant due to a couple of issues that all related to the big freeze up that we had, piping freeze ups and things like that. And while that plant was offline, we had severe water main breaks around town. It was the days that we were at minus 20 degrees. Now, when that happened, we started losing our tanks. Basically, our capacity in the town was going down, and was fast going down. This happened to be on a Saturday, and again, I just can't send the people to go and open the connection. The emergency has to be declared. The DEP director has to agree with that. Then you have to contact the MWRA to agree that we can use their water, and then you have to talk to Lexington to make sure that we can actually access their pipes to get water to it. So all those things, thankfully for us, in January happened within a couple of hours, which is pretty amazing. This is a Saturday.
Right.
But had this happened in June, even if we did all of the same procedures and we got it done in 2 hours, there wouldn't be enough water coming through that line to take care of the town with the water that we use in June.
Because Lexington's using all their water within their system.
And you have all the irrigation systems going. And it's not just that people would lose water, which is an inconvenience, obviously, but I mean, it's emergency for the fire department. Because, if something were to happen, they might not get the pressure they need to respond.
Oh, they'll definitely get no pressure at all.
And that would be not getting the pressure they
People have to realize we've had some scary situations here, which, we talk about, where our reserve, our water reserve has gone, too low for comfort. And we've had to make these decisions, and a lot of times it's over a weekend, making these decisions and having to get back. If something goes wrong in a plant, things break down. So we're in a situation this week. You had a problem, in a plant, and things go wrong, and we have to adjust, and we just don't have enough, confidence in our backup anymore. And the other problem is irrigation systems keep being put in. Right. So so we're continuing to grow our use of irrigation systems in the community. So other alternatives are to shut down irrigation systems. I mean, these are the type of things you really have to take a look at, and so that's why the recommendation from all the committees so far, and they've been unanimous, says to join MWRA and go this route.
I want to follow up on what John said about irrigation systems, because last year the Board of Selectmen voted to have a year-round water restriction, which is still in place. It's a reminder to the people at home that the restriction is still in place. Every other day watering, and not between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Right. And the reason for that, it wasn't just because we wanted to have a restriction. It's because we need to limit the amount of water that the town is using in one particular day. If an emergency were to happen and we didn't have any restrictions, there is absolutely no positive way to maintain the system so we won't go dry. By doing the restrictions that we have, we've been reducing that peak day somewhat. I wouldn't say dramatically, but somewhat, that at least will buy us a little bit more time if anything were to happen, an emergency-wise, during the summertime.
And just in case people aren't kind of up to date or informed, we talk about the MWRA, but what is it? Where's the water coming from? What's their sort of
Quabbin Reservoir.
Yeah.
So they have a huge capacity of water in a Quabbin. And as a matter of fact, right now the Quabbin has 5 years capacity in it. And, for trivia, Quabbin used to be 4 towns out there back in the 30s when they flooded it. So the trivia question, what are the 4 towns, that were lost? So it comes from the Quabbin. It goes through the processing plant in Marlboro. So, and then it comes down basically to Mass Pike, and then it gets distributed from there. So that's where the water comes from.
And if anybody's interested in seeing where their water supply will be coming from, I highly recommend it. I grew up in that area and hiked the Quabbin a lot, and it's beautiful. So
Yeah.
I think worth the trek out to central western Massachusetts. Last thing, I guess, is, so with this, there's some cost. What are sort of the projected costs for residents, and when will they sort of start to see them if this is passed?
Well, the project, we call it phase 1 and phase 2. I mean, we're dividing that into the 2 phases. There is a fee that we need to buy into the MWRA, as well as the cost of the capital cost to actually build the pipes. Under phase 1 and phase 2, assuming the town meeting were to vote both of them and approve them, we worked out the numbers on this. For phase 2, there's like a $17 million capital improvement cost, plus the cost of buying the water, plus the cost of joining. But all of that can fit within our water rate structure that we currently have. And although I don't like to say we have an average water bill, because an average doesn't really exist, but when we see the majority of people fall with our water use, which is about 61,000 gallons of water per year, that's what we see the majority, or less.
Yeah.
So for that user, we'll see that with a $10 increase in the water and sewer bill per year, that will fund this project. So, and I want to clarify, the $10 is every year the proposal is to increase it by another $10. So it's not just $10 once.
Right. But that was for a certain number of years, or?
For 10 years.
For 10 years.
For 10 years. And you have to remember, we have not raised our water and sewer rates in 5 years.
So the average water bill, for a 61,000 gallon user is?
Oh, you will ask me that right now.
I remember quickly it was $350 or so. Or I'm looking at, I was trying to think back to the
someplace in there. So even our water rates, if you do the comparison, we've got all the charts, which we don't have on the show today.
Right.
But if you see all the charts, our average water user is $400 to $500 on a yearly basis. So I think we're saying on the 90,000 maybe, right. And compared to $1,200 to $1,500 in other communities. So our water rates are low because we subsidize water with the tax rate here, which few communities do. So you're talking about the average water bill, let's say of $400, and that will increase by $100 over a 10-year period is what we're looking at here, to make sure you have water
right.
as we move forward. That we cannot guarantee right now. So over that 10-year period, we are looking at probably constant,
water restrictions.
Water restrictions, where you're not going to be able to water, your grass much, over many points of that period. So this gives us the capacity to have fewer water restrictions going forward, and it protects our system.
Right, and it also gives you the opportunity to do maintenance at Mill Pond, correct? Which you can't do now, or it's difficult to do now.
Yeah, the goal is to have whatever pipe we will install will be large enough to actually carry the entire town. So you're able to now plan your maintenance repairs that you need to do, not the way we're currently doing them in a hurry, pretty much before we lose capacity in the tanks, which is what we've been doing for the last 5 years.
Great. Now, is town meeting going to vote on both phase 1 and phase 2 this May?
No, phase 1.
Just the
this
first
phase,
part.
Exactly.
So that's the initial connection through Lexington.
The initial pipe to Lexington,
Yep.
Plus the MWRA fee to join for that 1 million gallons.
Okay. But as of this time, Vinebrook's going to keep up and running for as long as it does.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I think that pretty much covers that. Appreciate you guys for coming on. And
Thank you again.
Yep. Appreciate it. Thank you. So there you have it, 2 big decisions that will be before town meeting this May. We hope these discussions helped illuminate the planning that went into these proposals and why they are up for consideration. I'd like to thank my guests, Town Administrator John Petrin, DPW Director John Sanchez, and Parks and Recreation Director Brendan Egan for joining me for this edition of BNEWS In Depth. I'd also like to thank you all for watching. I'm BNEWS Director Rich Hosford, and we will see you next time.